the audacity, the unmitigated gall. Welcome to Primary Technology, the show about the tech news that matters. This week, OpenAI has released a 1-800 number where you can literally call and talk to ChatGPT. The immersive camera from Blackmagic is going to go on sale early next year, and if enough of you support, you can see this show in immersive video. Is the algorithm hiding something? Oh, and we're also going to go through all of Apple's announcements over the last year and put it in the tier list. I already did this in a video. Jason's going to tell me how wrong I am. This episode is brought to you by the Data Citizens Dialogues podcast, HelloFresh, and you, the members who support us directly. But I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Robles, and joining me as always, my good friend Jason Aten. How's it going?
It's good. It's good. I'm a little bit annoyed because you had to choose a quote from what I've already told you is my least favorite Christmas movie. That's actually not my least favorite. It's my second least favorite. It's my least favorite version of a very popular Christmas movie.
It is the most fun quote to say, though.
That's true. It's obviously the Grinch.
Obviously the Grinch.
It's the Jim Carrey version, which is super not my favorite version of
It's
that.
traumatizing. Let's be honest. Listen, I'm going to let our listeners and viewers know you're going to see something special pop up in the feed in a couple days because Jason joined me and my other co-host, Nate Baranowski, on Movies on the Side to talk about our top 5 Christmas movies. And we thought it would be fun to kind of drop that in as a bonus episode. It'll be available to everyone, but you might see that drop over the weekend. So just giving you a heads up, if you want to listen to a festive top 5 Christmas movie show, it's going to be coming up.
It was a very spirited conversation.
I see what you did there. I see what you did. I'm so excited because Jason told me he actually called ChatGPT, that 1-800 number, and recorded the conversation. I did not expect this, so I'm very excited to hear how this conversation went and the implications of other people calling this number. But anyway, 3 5-star review shout-outs. Thank you to everyone leaving 5-star reviews and supporting the show. Cooler FM from the USA, dots on, percentage on, dominant hand, or dominant pocket. So dots on, thumbs up. Mikai from USA, or Mixai, he said the deep dives hook him from the show. We appreciate that. And finally, Trapper's Hat Stew from the USA, he said back button focus on. That might be another one for our photographers.
That's right. Back
button focus on. There you go. All right, well, let's jump right into it because OpenAI, in their 12 days of Shipmas, which I think we're nearing the end of these 12 days.
I think that was day 10.
Was it day 10?
I think yesterday was day 10.
Okay, well, they announced that ChatGPT is now available via phone and via text, but the text is via WhatsApp. So you can call a 1-800 number, 1-800-ChatGPT, and you get 15 minutes of access per month to talk to the large language model. And you can also message the number via WhatsApp, although it seemed unclear how many messages a month you would get. I imagine it would be the same as if you had a free ChatGPT account and didn't pay for ChatGPT Plus. But you can literally call and talk to ChatGPT for 15 minutes a month. I'm so excited. I had no idea you were going to do this, Jason, but you actually called this number. Did you do this yesterday?
No, I did this morning. Yeah, so
it's early to be talking to an LLM, I got to tell you.
Yeah. It was a surreal experience, but I am going to write about this. I have not formed all my thoughts because I literally did this not that long ago. One, I was like, well, I could just write about the fact that this happened, but like that it happened yesterday, so I'm a little late for that. So I'm like, I'm going to call. I'm going to see what. Listen, Stephen, I don't think I've called an 800 number that wasn't an airline in 10 years. Like, it's been a very long time since I've called a 1-800 number. I was thinking through this, like one of the big stories earlier this year was how they spent $15 million or whatever on chat.com. Right. And I wonder how much they had to pay to get ChatGPT as their vanity H800 number. Yeah, and like that,
it's got to be way cheaper than a domain.
I'm sure that's true, but someone probably had that combination of numbers already, so they had to figure out who that was. And I was just thinking, like, when is the last time a new 800 number was even like? Companies don't like at this point. The whole reason 800 numbers existed is so you didn't have to pay long distance.
Right.
When is the last time you've made a long distance call? It's been a very long time.
I feel like maybe the last time I dialed an 800 number was to upgrade my internet. I called my internet service provider, which that's going to be our personal tech segment because I upgraded my speed once again.
But Stephen, you know me well enough to know that there are a few things in the world I hate more than talking on the phone to anything. Like I had to call you the other day, and I want you to know, like it was a really high bar to be like, Steven, can we talk on the phone for a minute?
And I also didn't pick up the first time.
Well, and also I'm sure you were terrified because why would I be texting you saying, do you have a minute for a phone call?
That was ominous.
Show's over, Steven.
It was ominous. Next time you should just say tech support needed. 1-800 tech support Beard FM.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm going to say, can I get the 800 number? 1-800 BEARDFM. Beard FM. Let's see if I can get it. I'm going to get it.
Okay. So anyway, I did call this morning, and this is also it's the first time I've called an 800 number in years. It's also the first time I've used iOS 18.2's new feature. I don't know if it came.
I think it was iOS 18 regular.
Sure. Where you can record phone calls now. The best part of the whole thing. I wonder if I can play some of this for you. Can you hear this?
What are some common things that kids do to try to have a snow day?
Kids have some classic snow day rituals. They might wear their pajamas inside out, flush ice cubes down the toilet, or even sleep with a spoon under their pillow, all in the hopes of a snow day miracle.
What?
First of all those things are true. That's exactly what kids do. You live in Florida, Steven. You have no idea.
I grew up in New York, Jason. It was
a long
snow days
time ago.
All the time.
It's a long time ago.
What are you talking about? A spoon under the pillow?
Literally, my children have done all of these things in the last couple of weeks. And by the way, it worked because they've had 2 snow days so far. But the flushing ice cubes down the toilet, 100% a thing. Wearing your and all those things are true. So
wait a minute. Hold on a second. I'm gonna need here it is. The next debate. I need to, because I grew up in New York. It wasn't that long ago. I understand it was like 20 years ago,
but here's the thing. I didn't ask ChatGPT what us old people used to do when we were kids. I asked what kids do now, and your children don't even know what snow day means.
No, they don't know. It's very sad. What do we do for hurricane days? You might ask that.
You do not flush anything down the toilet. You just get in a car and go.
That's right. I need to know from our listeners and viewers, have you ever heard of any of those practices of flushing ice cubes down the toilet, spoon under the pillow? I need to know.
But only if you have children in school right now, because if you're like our age and you just trust me. Anyway, so okay. Although the best part
bizarre.
the best part of this call though was actually when it said, "Hi, this is ChatGPT," and then I hit the record thing. It took me a second to figure out how to do that. So then it says it's going to tell you that I'm going to announce that it's recording in 3 seconds. So it says 3, 2, 1. It says this call will be recorded, and ChatGPT responded, "Great, let's talk." It's like she's so excited about me recording. Exactly. Yes. I've never called and interviewed anyone and had them being like, "Great." Anyway, so I talked to ChatGPT for about 15 minutes. It actually most of the 15 minutes was me thinking in between, like, what now can I do with the rest of my time? Because honestly, I understand that Steven doesn't believe me. Literally, if you ask one of my children, that is exactly the answer that they would give you, like word for word. So it hit it out of the park. But I then did the same thing with just voice mode on the app. I did the same thing with voice mode on the chat.com in the browser. Yeah. I did the same thing with Siri, pushing the thing down on Siri. Although the Siri interaction with ChatGPT, I'm sorry.
Did you start by saying using ChatGPT?
I didn't have to because it did it. Okay. But it completely mangled what I was asking, because the first time I asked the exact same question every single time, and the first time Dingus's interaction told me things that kids like to do on a snow day, right? They might go outside and build a snowman. I'm like, no, you misunderstood. You did not understand this. Anyway, I started thinking, like, there are definitely easier ways to interact with ChatGPT. There's clearly easier ways. Like all of the things I just mentioned, voice mode on the app. I think the easiest way to interact with ChatGPT is to push the Siri button on the side of your phone. Like that's how my kids think that this is a walkie-talkie now, because I just walk around like asking it questions, holding the button down, right, and getting responses from ChatGPT. Although that's the least useful in the long run, meaning the interaction with the voice assistant on your iPhone, because like you can't really do anything with that. You can't follow it up. Can you copy and paste? Maybe I don't even know if you can do that out of the interface. I haven't tried that.
What I've discovered is, like, the newer Siri is so hypersensitive to you saying anything after your request. Yeah. And this is probably a setting that I could turn off. I don't know if you know for sure, but like when I'll hold it, I'll do a request, and if I'm like with my kids and I asked the dingus a question, and if my kids start saying something, Siri will just start listening again.
Yeah.
And it never completes the initial request because it's now added multiple things. Is there a setting for this? I forget.
I don't know, like continue listening or something, but you can't tap out of the Siri interaction because then it just stops doing anything. So it is kind of annoying. While you find the setting, I'll just
please,
tell you my theory. So ChatGPT is doing this because they're trying to make it familiar. Like they're trying to offer channels to interact with ChatGPT in ways that are familiar to people. And again, we don't call 800 numbers. So who are they trying to make it familiar to? It's like boomers, right? Like they are trying to expose people who still make phone calls with the ability to talk to ChatGPT. I think it's pretty cool. It's very limited in what you could do because, right, most of the things I'm doing is like summarize this or explain this or whatever. You can't do any of those things on the phone because you can't, like, it just says it to you. I recorded the conversation, but if I hadn't recorded the conversation, it's like ephemeral. I couldn't do anything with that information later. So the WhatsApp thing is also interesting. They've made it really easy. There's a QR code. You just scan it and it opens a chat in WhatsApp with ChatGPT. And it's basically the same experience as chatting with the app. The difference is, again, if you use WhatsApp, but you don't want to download the ChatGPT app or go to chat.com, everyone knows how to send a text message. And now you can just send a text message to ChatGPT, which is basically what you're doing when you're using the app. But they're just, so I actually think it's really brilliant that they're exposing it. The other thing, Stephen, last thing on this is, it occurred to me as I was talking, OpenAI says that they are not going to use these conversations to train their large language model. However, they did. I did a service to our listeners, and I dug through all of the terms and conditions about how they're using it, and they do review them. And I think it's almost a guarantee that they're going to use it not to train the LLM, but just to improve the experience. But if you want to have a good voice assistant, you need your voice assistant constantly listening to real people talking, deducing what they're saying, because what it essentially has to do is speech text analysis. Feed that into the LLM, give you back a response, and then say it. And the trickiest part of that, as we know from our friend on the iPhone, is the listening to what someone's saying, understanding what that is, turning it into a query, and then providing an answer. So in that sense, I think it's brilliant. Also, the people who are likely to use this are the demographic of people that they probably have the least experience with interacting with, because it's like my parents.
Right. Although I will say, I don't think there is zero chance my mom will call 1-800-CHAT-GPT and talk to it. But it was just bizarre to hear you play that recording, though, because, I mean, honestly, it sounds like one of those automated phone trees that you get. But
except you could ask it anything and it will understand it and come up with information. So it is 100% like that, except for I hate those phone trees. Right. Because they never do a good job of like giving you information outside of a set of responses. Whereas with ChatGPT, that set of responses is essentially infinite.
So while you were talking, I did look up the settings for Siri. The Dingus, excuse me. So if you go to Apple Intelligence and Dingus, there's no setting there that appears to affect this. But if you go to Accessibility and then Dingus, and by Dingus I mean SIRI, there is a setting called Require, quote, Dingus for interruptions. And I think that's the newer feature where you can interrupt during the request, which is, what all these large language models do. So I just turned on that toggle, and I'm going to try something. I'm going to say, I'm holding the side button instead of saying Dingus. Generate an image of a medieval knight riding a polar bear. Now I stopped holding the side button, and it's not listening to me anymore, I don't think. It's still glowing, which is confusing. Oh, no, it is still listening to me.
Yeah, because if the glow changes as you're talking, it's listening. Yeah,
it's still listening to me. So that's not even an interruption, but maybe it'll figure that. I don't know. I'm not crazy about this. The new Dingus. I'm really hoping the smarter Dingus comes.
You have to walk into your cone of silence to use the Siri integration.
What is that? You ever see that chamber that supposedly has 0 decibel reverb?
Yeah, an anechoic chamber. Yeah, the one that Apple has that has all the point. I actually think it's a death chamber because it's got all those pointy things that are pointed at you, and you're just like, whatever.
I do want to try it. People are saying people can't last 45 minutes. I'm like, I think I could last. I think I could do it.
Isn't that from that? It's a Steve Carell movie. Well, it's not originally a Steve Carell movie, but what is it? Get Smart, where they have the cone of silence.
Oh,
did you ever see that movie?
I don't know if I have.
Wasn't it Steve Carell and Anne Hathaway or something like that? It's a funny movie.
I don't know. Anyway, that's for movies on the side, Jason.
Yeah, sorry, I'm confused because we recorded an episode. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all good. Well, thank you for doing the Lord's work and calling the 1-800-CHAT-GPT. having that conversation. If anyone else calls it, let us know what kind of conversation.
If I can get it published soon enough, I will send you a link and you can include it.
Now, what's exciting is if we have enough supporters in 2025, you can have Primary Tech in immersive video because Blackmagic's Vision Pro immersive camera is going on sale in early 2025 next year for a measly pittance of $30,000. But now we need 2. So we need $60,000. So that means, divided by 5, we need 12,000 of you to support the show, which is more than listen every week. But we'll figure it out.
I mean, theoretically, what is it, $5 a month?
That's right.
So we actually only need 1,000.
Oh, for the year.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're not going to buy one of these every month.
We're going to continually add angles. This is going to be the most immersive podcast you've ever seen.
Please do not send me 12 of these cameras.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. But this was, Apple announced this in, I think it was Dub, the keynote.
I think that's true.
Yeah,
I don't remember, but I remember seeing this thing.
Yeah, so it's going to be specifically for recording immersive content. Listen, we'll see if, the Vimeo app, we talked about that a few months ago. You can actually post spatial video just that you capture with your iPhone or Vision Pro to Vimeo, and then use the Vimeo app in Apple Vision Pro to experience that immersive video, which is interesting. There's still no first-party way to do it. So I imagine maybe Apple will announce something early next year where you can
watch spatial video in the Photos app.
You can do it, but I mean, are you going to capture something on a $30,000 camera just to watch it in the Photos?
Well, no, I mean,
I'm saying you got to distribute it.
Okay, so you're not talking about like to do it for yourself. You're saying if you like have
right
the 3 friends you have want to watch the thing you did.
You would be dad of the year, I guess, if you buy this just for family videos.
No, you should definitely not do. It's weird enough to walk around with a Vision Pro on your face to take videos. Instead, you're walking around with this like droid on your shoulder. Like, come on.
It does look crazy. It
looks like it has a tape door too. Doesn't it look like it has a door for pulling out a cassette tape or something?
It's got. I don't know.
Wouldn't that be amazing if they're recording spatial video on a $30,000 thing and you pull out like one of those mini
2 seconds? You get 2 seconds
mini
of DV. Mini DV tapes. Anyway, I'm just hoping for more immersive content. Oh, which I should mention. I didn't even put this in the notes, but now it jogged my memory. I finally updated to Vision OS 2.2 because it's publicly available for everyone, and I tried the ultra-wide Mac virtual display. Jason, that thing is pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. It's really good. I was sitting in my car editing a shortcuts video while my kids were at dance practice, and I was like, I don't care. I'll look like a crazy person. So I put the Vision Pro on and sitting in my car, and I mean, ultra-wide Mac screen, because that was the one thing where I don't like editing on my laptop because it's a smaller screen, and I'm used to the studio display. So I'm like, okay, bigger screen. But previously, the bigger screen, it was still like the aspect ratio and everything was still confined to like with a computer. But being able to do a wide display from my MacBook Pro and edit in Final Cut and still have other windows open. And then I even went to the ultra wide display, whatever that biggest setting is. And I was like, this is too much. This is too much display for one person to handle. I couldn't do it. But it's very compelling. Do you prefer the ultra wide or just the?
So most of the time, if I'm using it, I'm not using my Mac. But if I'm using the Vision Pro, right. But if I am, I do like the ultra wide. I like being able to have lots of room for activities. You know,
you have to literally turn your head to see the whole display. Like it wraps around.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be floor to ceiling. You could size it in a way that you can still see it. And stuff,
right.
Yeah.
It was very cool though, and I might keep it charged and actually use it again. So we'll see. But more immersive content next year because of a new camera. More
immersive content that you don't have to make yourself for $30,000.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And this was one of the rumors. This was from Mark Gurman from Bloomberg. This is The Verge reporting on it, but that Apple might be working. The first foldable, I feel like that Gurman is rumoring, an 18.8-inch creaseless iPad by 2028. This would be 3-something years from now, but a super big iPad that actually folds. I don't know if I'll be into this. I actually went from the 12.9-inch iPad down to the 11-inch because I like the more portable size. But I guess this means maybe you could have the best of both worlds. Portable iPad, and it's so thin now. I mean, you could put two iPad Pro, M4 iPad Pros together, and it's barely more than a piece of paper thickness. I guess fold, that was a joke. I mean, it's more than a piece of paper, but you know what I mean. It's super thin. But, have two of those sandwiched together and then open up to a big screen. I don't know. I might be compelling. I still am it's hard for me to imagine Apple doing a foldable device. I don't know why. It just doesn't feel Apple-y just yet.
I think it's inevitable that Apple will do a foldable device. I think they are trying to figure out, they're like looking at the market and they're like, well, that's what they're doing. We have to do it different and more complicated. Like, this is exactly what happened with the Vision Pro, right?
Sure.
The Quest exists and people like it. And people buy lots of them, and they're $400 or whatever, $500 for those things. And Apple is like, hold my beer. Here's a $3,500 device with zero, specific content in like 13 apps, and it doesn't stay charged if you leave it on your desk for more than an hour and a half. It's like,
so true.
What? Like, just make the thing. Like, you could have just if they would have made a $500, it probably would have been $800, but essentially Quest competitor, they would have sold a lot of them. Imagine like if they just had positioned it as because if you think about like what are the best things about using the Vision Pro, for the most part, it is not the pass-through. The pass-through is good, but you don't need it. It's irrelevant. Like, you don't need pass-through for the Mac Virtual Display. You can be sitting at Yosemite. You don't need it to be playing games. If you're watching a movie, you probably are turning on an environment, right? Like the theater or something like that. So this to me, I think it's inevitable they're going to make one, and I think they are way overthinking it. Just put two of these phones together, boom, and it's perfect. It's like, I don't know. No one needs an 18.8 inch iPad, like, right? The 13 inch iPad is great if you want to, and I have thought about this a lot, Stephen, because I've been trying to figure out what the right iPad size is. Oh, is it the 13 or the 11? I personally am a big fan of the 11.
Yes,
but that's because I use a laptop almost all the time. And I don't need to replace my laptop, so I need a different device. If you don't have a laptop and your main device is a computer, then the 13 inch is perfect because you can slap it in a Magic Keyboard, and now you basically have an iPad and a laptop, right? The 11 inch is not great as a laptop. Let's just be honest. It's just not.
It is not. So I'm going to I'll actually put a link to this because Federico Viticci over at MacStories just did his final story of the year, which is his, I feel like, a lifelong quest to be all in on iPad Pro and never use a Mac again. And he says he seemingly has achieved it. And so his whole article is how he uses the new 11-inch iPad for everything. And he went from the 12.9-inch down to the 11-inch. Now he uses it with an external monitor when he's doing like desk work and stuff. But he said he's achieved it. He's doing everything on iPad, including podcasting, including all of his work, and nothing else, using the external monitor when he's there. I think, because I literally have it right here, I feel like the 11-inch iPad is the perfect size iPad to be an iPad, to both be a tablet and to be a quasi-laptop when you want it. Not better than a laptop, but better at being both. Because I feel like a 13-inch iPad, it's better at being a laptop, but it's not as good as being a tablet. And I feel like the 11-inch, stay with me, the 11-inch is better at being a quasi-laptop than the 13-inch is at being a tablet. Like, I feel like this Magic Keyboard on the 11-inch, I would rather deal with doing laptop things with this size than try to do tablet things where I actually hold it and use the Apple Pencil with the 13-inch because it's too big. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I just think you just have to figure out what's your primary use case. And if your primary use case is I want to hold something in my hand and read, watch, edit podcasts, right, the 11-inch is great. If the primary use is like I want to sit down with the keyboard, write, do stuff like that, get the 13-inch because you can still pull it off of the stand and use it. Sure. It's just if it's not as ideal for that kind of a thing.
Sure. But if you could do both, if you could have an 11-inch and then have, I guess, an 18-inch iPad for the big things, I don't know.
That's terrible. I mean, and also Federico Viticci was known to rip the head off of a Mac to use. Like he has been on a journey, and so I'm glad he feels like he's finally figured out what he's doing. So
he's been on a spirit quest to find the final form. But anyway, I'll put a link to that article. And one other Apple-y related thing before we get to, is TikTok going to get banned? I saw this yesterday. Someone on social media sent it to me. Sorry, I forgot who it was, but I immediately bought it because I'm a sucker for these kind of things. This is from the company Elevation Lab, and they have made something called the TimeCapsule for AirTag. And what this is basically a enclosure where you can take the back off an AirTag, which is typically a CR2032 battery. You take that out, and this TimeCapsule mimics that battery, the 2032 battery, so the AirTag thinks it's powered, but then you could put 2 AA's in this enclosure, and Elevation Lab is claiming 10-year battery for the AirTag. So if you basically want a decade of AirTag tracking and never have to think about the battery for those 10 years, you can get these time capsules. You can get a 2-pack for $30. That's what I did. And I'm like, I want to try this. I want to see, like, A, does it still work? Like, does it really fool the AirTag into doing it? And I imagine so. And if this, 10 years, now think about it. Now, I will say, AirTag batteries are pretty great. Like, I think I've only changed mine after, like, the 2-year mark. That's when I get the low battery warning. So they do last a while. But a 10-year AirTag? I don't know. Is this an attractive idea to you?
No, this is dumb, I think.
No,
I
no,
just feel like it's a $29 thing. You just have to double the price to use it with AA batteries, and you're saying it'll last. But the whole point of an AirTag is how small it is, and you can just stick it into things. Like, you want to carry that thing around your luggage?
For things like your keychain, but for your, like, check-in luggage that,
you don't
the one
check
time
luggage, dude. What's wrong with you?
Oh, sorry, carry-on luggage. Something like that. I don't know, check luggage.
But if you're carrying it on, how far away from you it is ever going to be that you're going to lose it?
I like this idea. I think it's brilliant. Well, I don't know if it's brilliant yet, but I got a couple, and so I'll let you know.
You're starting to sound like me. It's brilliant. The best idea I've ever heard.
No, I don't know. I'm actually going to try it. But there's also rumor that Apple's going to update AirTag next year in 2025 with an updated ultra-wideband chip, because the latest iPhones and Apple Watches actually have the ultra-wideband chip, like version 2, but AirTag is still on the first version. So there might actually be an improved AirTag, and you might want to wait before to see if this would actually work. But
speaking of AirTags, I did want to just mention. I only want to mention this because this is hilarious. But Apple did finally roll out their little Find My partnership with United Airlines, and they're going to make it available to other airlines. They released that went live this week. And the best part about it is that I was sent the release, and I clicked on the link to read the page on United's, their newsroom post, and it was page not found, which is just super ironic for a story about AirTag compatibility. The page was not found. They didn't do that on purpose. Literally, they gave me the wrong link or something.
Well played.
But I do think I think Apple is. I would not be surprised if we do see some more AirTag advance. That to me is a rumor that makes more sense.
Yeah. Because and the AirTag was announced 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a lot you need to do to it. And I think the concept of make the battery user replaceable, probably the right choice. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the only other way you could do it to make that thing useful is to make it rechargeable, like USB-C, but that just dramatically changes the form factor of what you could have. So, and
I have some Find My devices from ESR that are rechargeable, but it uses this weird contact-based recharging thing instead of USB-C, and I don't want to keep track of a different charger. No, I don't want to do that. All right, one last story before we have some exciting stuff. We're going to talk about the short form social apocalypse and my Apple tier list. But we are getting closer to possibly seeing TikTok get banned here in the U.S. It is an impending ban. Supposedly on Friday, January 10th, there's going to be one last time where TikTok can appeal to the Supreme Court to stay the ban further. But if not, it's looking like it might be happening. And again, we kind of go through these waves where last year it seemed to get very close. Again, it seems like it might get banned. Here's my question to you, Jason, because I was asked this by a group of people the other day. They were like, is TikTok really going to get banned here in the U.S.? And I was like, okay, well, what does it mean if it gets banned? It means Apple and Google will have to remove it from its app stores. So you won't be able to download it if you didn't already have it. If you already have the app downloaded, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably still going to work. The app is not going to be removed from your device.
Well, those two things are not the same.
Right, I know, yeah.
I don't think it will work because ISPs will not be allowed to host the services that are associated with that.
Okay.
So you may have a dead shell app on your thing, and if you had cached video and stuff, it should continue to work. But the ban is not on TikTok, the app existing in the United States. It's the onus is on the app stores and the service providers who are doing that, and they're basically saying you can't have this app on there anymore.
Well, here's my theory. If it does go through, I think the United States teenage population will become immediately familiar with VPN apps. like many countries already do. places where certain apps are banned or services are banned, and people quickly learn about VPN apps and being able to obfuscate where they appear from and in what countries. I think that will happen. I do think TikTok will lose some momentum if this does go through, because there will be a segment of users that just don't want to deal with that and don't want to figure it out. And I've seen all the creators already kind of bemoaning this because they've built one entire big platform on a single app, namely TikTok. I see a lot of TikTok creators try to move that audience off to other platforms like YouTube for monetization and just more stability. And typically it is harder to move that audience because they're on TikTok and they don't really care to go to YouTube and subscribe to your channel. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but it's getting close. Do you think this is gonna happen?
So I think that I think the most likely scenario is that the Supreme Court delays the implementation so that it has enough time to consider things. But I don't think that the Supreme Court is going to. I don't think it's going to outweigh the argument that TikTok has been. I'm sorry. This is multi-layered, man. This is an onion that we have to peel back without crying. The TikTok is trying to argue that banning this is an infringement on the First Amendment rights, not of TikTok, but of the people who use the platform. Right. That argument's not going to go anywhere because they can just they can just publish their content in other places.
Right, exactly.
Right. So you're not restricting their First Amendment rights. No one has a First Amendment right to use TikTok. The government can't punish you for saying things on TikTok. Those are two very different things. And again, I'm not an attorney, but this doesn't seem complicated to me. Okay. No, so that's one piece of it. I don't think that will outweigh the national security implications because the Sixth Circuit? I can't remember which court of appeals essentially upheld the law because they are saying that Congress, using its discretion, considered the national security implications and decided that it was a threat, and that's why they passed this law. And the court should not be is not in a position to second guess whether or not those reasons were legitimate. That they should defer to Congress to say, you all are the ones who have the information, and you're the ones that make the argument and make these decisions. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's possible that it could get delayed. And if that happens, I think it's possible that either the law could get repealed because President Trump has decided that TikTok is what helped get him elected this time, which is weird because last time it was what helped the other guy get elected. It's very fluid. It's a very fluid situation. So I think it's possible that if the Supreme Court does stay this, that Congress might act differently to reverse it. The most logical situation is sell this thing to Walmart. Seriously, they would buy it. They would buy it in a heartbeat.
They get all that Vizio ad stuff.
Listen, Walmart would buy this. Just tell us a dollar amount and we'll write you a check. In a heartbeat that they would, because it is literally the home shopping network. That's what TikTok is now, and so they would absolutely buy it.
I feel like ByteDance, the owners of TikTok, though, they're not going to do that.
No, they absolutely don't want to. That's what they're saying. But this is sort of how what's about to happen right now, how every time when they're we have to raise the debt limit or the world will end or whatever, and there's some compromise that can be made, but no one's willing to compromise because they're just trying to they're making a bluff. I don't know if ByteDance is bluffing or not here, if they really are refusing to sell or if they've had some. I feel like that they've had conversations with Walmart or Amazon. Those are the two most obvious people. Right. Or possibly Microsoft, because Microsoft apparently will buy any feral social network that's available on the market. And they almost tried to do it before. Literally, they tried to get them to buy it before. Satya Nadella has already said it was the weirdest 3 days of his life. That was before Sam Altman got fired and rehired in a week. But
oh my goodness.
Anyway, so I just think I think that it will not disappear on the 19th. I think that it's likely that the Supreme Court will stay. Now, if the Supreme Court is nope, they refuse to issue an injunction on it, I think things get really interesting, and I think it will get turned off for a while.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll see early next year. I'm thankful I did not build my platform on TikTok. That's all I'm saying.
And I want to say this. I am somewhat sympathetic to. I don't use TikTok. I'm aware of what it is, right? But Instagram Reels gives me more than enough of that, right? So I understand TikTok. I understand that people use it for search. I get all of that. I'm not, but I do think if you, I don't know that it's a compelling argument No, it's not a compelling argument that we can't close this thing down because creators have built their entire businesses on it. Think about like, that's not the, there have been times when it's like, we need to build a minor league baseball stadium, so we're going to raise all these buildings, and the small business owners who have all the shops in those buildings are like, hey, but you're taking away our livelihood, and they get compensated for it. But they literally invested in a physical infrastructure and hiring employees. If your entire business is I stand in front of a mirror with a video with an iPhone and I do a dance and I publish it and I get 3 million likes, and so brands come along and want to pay me to make other videos, I feel like you'll be fine. You should be able to find something else to do with your time. Don't you think? Like, I don't think that's a compelling argument. I mean, you're a creator. You are on YouTube. I understand you have a different perspective.
I am more sympathetic to the creators because while they might not have invested money in a physical brick and mortar location, they have invested years of their lives making content for a platform that promised monetization and opportunity. Like, yeah, not only did brand deals come along, but TikTok, even though this is like a joke that TikTok Creator Fund and monetization is not good and doesn't pay very much, there was the promise that you could build a platform here and sustain yourself as an individual creator. And I'm on TikTok. I do enjoy watching it. There's a lot of funny stuff on there. I save funny TikToks to show to my kids, and I find more content that I would enjoy on TikTok than Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels and even YouTube Shorts. So I do think there is a value there, and it is a shame because I do think there are creators. I think of Straw Hat Goofy. He's a movie reviewer, and he's one of the creators where he built a platform on TikTok. I think he's got like 3 million followers. But that did translate to where he's now invited to movie premieres and Comic-Cons, and he's speaking at events. And so for him specifically, he was able to translate that, I think, into more of a long-term career move. Because now, like, he's at the red carpet. Like, he's now kind of crossed into, he's outside of the bubble of the social media platform. But there's other creators. I think of the guy, he talks about, like, historical events, but like he basically acts them out in dramatic ways, and it's very compelling, and he's really entertaining, and he's sharing history in an interesting way, and he has not crossed over because by the nature of his content, there's not really a place for him to go except to try to go to YouTube or Instagram or whatever. And so if TikTok were to shut down, like a creator like that, and there's probably thousands, tens of thousands, that would not have a sustainable work, basically. And so I'm sympathetic to that. I also think it is just more proof that, and we're going to talk about algorithmic platforms in a moment, that if you base your business on one of these platforms, you cannot depend on it long term. Like even YouTube, where I feel like is probably the most stable of the platforms, at least for me, it is the most consistent monetarily, the most consistent in audience, where I know that if I do the right things according to the algorithm, I will get people to watch the content, is the most predictable. I still don't feel like I'm going to trust it for the next 10 years. Like, I don't know what it means. So I do think maybe this will be a rude awakening for a lot of creators, but you do have to think about what other place can I have on the internet? We talked about this last week. Like, is it a website? Is it a newsletter? Can I have another part of my platform that is owned by me and not an algorithmic, and I'm not beholden to this algorithmic platform where if the app goes away or if the algorithm changes, all of a sudden I don't have an audience. And that is, I mean, you have a few choices. The email newsletter list, podcast is kind of in one of them, although it's a little more like nebulous. It's not like I have an email list of people I can just contact everyone who listens to this podcast directly, but it's less algorithmically driven. People who visit your website every day, which is things like what the Verge is basically banking on, but also a subscription base there, or membership communities like Patreon or Circle, like we have for this, which is social.primarytech.fm. So I do think creators are going to have to, especially on TikTok, like, again, start thinking about that, but it's hard to move him. And a platform like TikTok, if you mention the word YouTube, or if you say, go to my Instagram or go to my website, every creator already knows, like, TikTok is going to derank that video and not show it to a huge swath of your audience, even if you have millions of followers. So you are at this disadvantage of, like, especially TikTok, I can't mention these other places for people to find me because then TikTok won't show that video to anyone, but I have to do that in order to sustain my creator-focused business. And so I am sympathetic to TikTok creators in that sense, that they've kind of had their hands tied in a certain way. And I'm thankful that a platform like YouTube, they will let me put links in the video description and call it out, and not like the algorithm's not going to shove that video in a closet. Like, it will still be seen by thousands of people. So,
okay, counterpoint. I'm not sympathetic at all. If you build your business on someone else's platform, you have to play by their rules, and you can't complain about it because you chose. I don't mean you personally, but I'm not.
Right.
Like, think about that. You just said TikTok is a terrible place to try to build an audience because it's not your audience. So I'm sympathetic to the people who have decided that they're going to monetize their inability to build their own audience. Like, that just seems like super bad business to me, right?
I understand, but also, like, let's say you were on TikTok and for the first year you grew an audience and your videos that mention your email list get shown to your followers, and then they change the algorithm on the back end that you have no control over. And it's like not that there was a promise, but that there was an expectation that it worked this way for a year or two, and now it's suddenly changed without notice or warning. It's like,
why would you want to put all of your eggs in that basket where they could just change it? So, like, I'm just saying that's a terrible, like, as a rational person, that's not a great place to build your entire business. The other thing I was going to say, though, is that none of that's an argument for the government shouldn't ban it. Right. That would be like saying, listen, I spent 5 years peddling weed for this guy, and suddenly the government's going to come along and throw him in jail. You can't throw him in jail. I built a business on this. If the government is, and I'm not suggesting that people who are using TikTok are doing something illegal, but what I'm trying to say is, like, if the government decides this is a national security threat, the argument can't be, yes, but people who built their business on that platform will lose their ability. Especially because you can just do that on Instagram, right?
That is what I'm not sure is right, because you would think, but as a creator who is on multiple platforms, it is different. Like, you can post the same exact video on TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts, and it will perform differently. Not just because of the algorithm, but the audience is actually different. You said it yourself. You don't use TikTok, but you do use Instagram Reels. So that TikTok creator who built an audience on TikTok, their videos, like, you're probably not going to care for them because they're not geared toward Instagram Reels, because that audience is different. Just like if someone gets Facebook Reel views, that's definitely a different audience than the one on TikTok. Yeah. So it is not the same as, like, I can just do the same thing on a different platform. I dare say it is different. Just like my long form YouTube videos, I could post those somewhere else, even like TikTok or whatever, or Instagram. I think you do like 10-minute videos, but they're not going to perform the same there because it's not made for that platform and that audience. So I do think it's not like just copy paste. It is you would have to become a different kind of creator. So I'm not saying this has anything to do with the government or the ban, but only that is why I'm sympathetic towards the creators who now kind of have to figure out what to do. And I don't think it's wholly that they made a bad decision to build an audience on TikTok. Maybe it was they should have, like, had contingencies or redundancies, but yeah.
Well, and to be clear, I don't think they made a bad decision. I think they made an uninformed decision because and this is not an insult to anyone who is a creator on any of the platforms, but most of them did not start out thinking, how could I create a business plan that would allow me to make a lot of money by making videos? They just started making videos, attracted an audience, and then realized that it was a thing that they could monetize. So it does make sense to me that it wasn't really a super thought out, like whatever. It's like, I get that. And then you get to the point where you're like, wait a minute, I don't actually have full control over my audience, or I really should be able to port this audience somewhere else, but I can't do that because of the platform restrictions. And you're so invested in it at that point that it does make it very difficult. All I'm saying is that looking at it from the outside objectively, all of the fact that it's so difficult means, like, maybe that's not the best place to be building a long-term business. I don't know what the career lifespan of somebody on TikTok is anyway. There's no way to know because it's so new, right? So, yeah.
And the last thing I'll say, I do think if you were a creator on a platform like TikTok, you do have to kind of shift your mindset. Not that you're a TikTok creator, but that what is it that you are actually doing that is of value to your audience? Are you entertaining people? Are you informing people? Are you inspiring people? Like, what is the thing that you are doing in your videos? And then you do have to think, how can I translate that to a different form factor, whether that is longer form videos on YouTube, where you might have to shift how you create your content or the style, but what you're good at and what you do is translatable, like to your argument. Like you can't, if you succeeded on TikTok and you have 1 million followers, you do have the ability to succeed somewhere else. You just might have to translate the end product a little bit to actually tailor to the platform. But that's also the game of now being a content creator. What works on different platforms? See, I knew we would have no problem having a full-length episode today, Jason. Because
the people like the deep dives.
This is a deep dive. This was a deep dive. All right. Well, we're going to have another deep dive. I want Jason to tell me where I was wrong for the Apple tier list of 2024. And we're already talking about our short-form social apocalypse, and so we're going to get to that too. But before we do, we want to thank two good friends. The first is the Data Citizens Dialogues podcast. This is an incredible show talking about data and security from just with fascinating interviews. Data and how we use it's an ever-shifting landscape. And as a listener of this show, Primary Technology, you understand how important it is to stay informed and up to date. That's why you need to listen to Data Citizens Dialogues podcast, brought to you by Calibra, the leader in data intelligence. On the Data Citizens Dialogues podcast, you'll hear industry leaders unpack data's impact on the world, from big picture questions like AI governance and data sharing to more nuanced questions like how do we balance offense and defense and data management. And you'll hear firsthand insights about the data conversations affecting all kinds of industries, with guests sharing unique stories from the world's largest companies. And so if you like deep dives like from this show, this is another show to get into. In one of the last episodes that I heard, Ruben Messine was talking about data decentralization and how you can make it accessible in more places to more people, but still maintaining security and privacy, which is a tough challenge for any company and brand. And it's a fascinating conversation. Highly recommend. So be part of the data conversation and start listening to the Data Citizens Dialogues podcast today. You can follow Data Citizens Dialogues on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast, and that link is in the show notes as well. Thanks to Data Citizens Dialogues for sponsoring this episode, and our good friends at HelloFresh. Every time I load this website, my eye just snaps to that everything bagel with cream cheese. Because I'm from New York, Jason, and I know what snow is, okay? That's why I go over there. But HelloFresh, it's America's #1 meal kit. Skip the trips to the grocery store. Listen, it's the holidays. Grocery stores are insane right now. You literally get into a fist fight just trying to get a pie crust or some vanilla extract or whatever. No, you don't have to deal with that. Count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. But listen, we all love the holidays, but with how busy you are, you need to find ways to stress less. Well, HelloFresh makes mealtime manageable, saving you from searching for recipes for all the grocery shopping. You just pick your meals on the website, in the app, and everything you need is delivered right to your door. And HelloFresh includes high-quality, sustainably sourced ingredients, and everything's perfectly portioned. When I get the box, the recipe in there is beautifully designed. It's easy to follow. Typically, I struggle to cut an onion. Jason knows. We talked about this on the Movies on Side podcast. But HelloFresh, I feel empowered. Like I can actually cook a meal, and it's wonderful. Jason's been, he cooked several meals. What was the burger that you enjoyed?
It's like a bourbon bacon cheddar burger. It was so good.
It sounds so good. Burgers, tacos, home-cooked meals for the whole family. You can do it all with HelloFresh. So get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/freeprimary. It applies across 7 boxes, new subscribers only, varies by plan, but that's 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/freeprimary, and HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. Our thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this episode. Well, let's continue our death of the social media algorithms and platforms. I'm just going to throw this in
such a
here.
happy pre-Christmas episode.
We're going to get to the Apple tier list. Don't you worry. I wanted to just include this New York Times video. I thought it was pretty interesting, talking about how all the algorithms across social media feels like there's just a sameness of content, which if you just follow the biggest names, the biggest accounts, it does feel like there's a sameness as you look across the landscape. And this video, I think, thankfully, is encouraging people to find like smaller outlets, independent shows like Primary Technology. We are an independent show. We're not part of any network. We don't have any person telling us what to do. I don't think.
I mean, Steven tells me what to do because he just writes it in the order and we talk about it.
I just put links in a doc. Anyway, but it was an interesting video. But talking about the sameness in algorithm. Now, like right now on my computer, we've talked about this problem before. I have all the social media apps open. I got Blue Sky over here. I got Threads. I got Mastodon. I cross-post to all these things. I use the Croissant app. It is, I feel, not sustainable. I think we are in a short-form social apocalypse. I just can't imagine this lasting. Now, the Fediverse and what is it? ActivityPub is the other framework that supposedly will democratize social media, where you can post where you want, and then everybody else on the internet could supposedly follow where they want. I am less and less optimistic because I feel like we're just getting, I don't know, farther and farther away from that dream. But Threads over here is supposedly doing well. This was Zuck a couple days ago saying Threads' strong momentum continues. Now 300 plus million active users monthly and 100 million plus daily active users. But Jason was very mad at this statistic because it's like you can find Threads post anywhere. You open your microwave, there's a Thread post in there. You start your car.
What there is there's an Instagram post. There's a Thread post that looks like an Instagram post in your microwave. Exactly. It's like they're just blatantly like.
Yeah.
I mean, like, listen, I get it. They bootstrapped the whole thing on the Instagram social graph. That was brilliant. I understand, but now it's like they're like this was for me the straw that broke the Threads' back or whatever. Yeah. Sure. Where I am now in my little Instagram notifications getting Threads posts. Like, you get the little
yes.
Red badge on the heart telling you like, oh, someone followed you or someone replied or someone liked your thing. Nope, just here's a Threads post from someone I don't know and I do not follow that you might be interested in. It was one thing when they were putting them in the feed. Okay. Like that right. To me was garbage. I hated it. Now they're trying to stuff them into your notifications. And I think it may have been on the Verge. I don't know for sure. It may have been on either Decoder. No, not Decoder. It could have been on Dithering or it could have been on Sharp Tech. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't remember who said it, but I 100% agree. The problem is, and this is especially true at Meta, it was definitely Ben Thompson. And I'm narrowing down the podcast it could be on. He's like, I don't use Facebook anymore. And the reason is they started shoving everything into the notifications. Yeah. So I just turned off notifications, which meant I never opened the app anymore. And so right. That is becoming the case with Instagram and with Threads. And the problem is that someone's, KPI is engagement through notifications sent. And so they just keep turning that knob up. And now they're turning it up for Threads. And it tells you how scared they are of like Blue Sky, which is ridiculously small and by comparison. But they're like, nope. I mean, maybe not scared, but they're like trying to cut it off before it could become any kind of a competitor. Oh, yeah. And but I feel like you hate your users. You don't think of them as people using a service. You see them as numbers that eventually you're going to monetize, and you want to make sure that they don't slip out or leak to something else. And so I'm going to write about this, Stephen. I'm so mad. It's not going to make a difference. No one cares, but it makes me so mad.
It's good. So after Zuck posted that 2 days ago, Hank Green, big YouTuber, creator, said, honest question, does seeing a Threads post on your Instagram feed count as a daily active user? I've seen fishier things in this world, like when Google counted YouTube as Google Plus usage.
Yeah.
Which I remember Google Plus. I'm old enough.
Yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg replied to him, said, no, you have to tap on the post and open Threads while logged in to be counted as a daily active user. But to your point, and look, there's Nate Corby, listener of the show. But this is, to your point, like, yes, Meta is trying to get people to click on these threads in Instagram so they go over to the Threads app and they count as a daily active user.
Yeah.
And it's basically Meta leveraging their Instagram base, which is huge. I mean, Instagram is, the second biggest social media network in the world after Facebook, which is all Meta.
Sure.
It's all the same. And so they're just trying to leverage that to keep Threads growing. And you can tell, like you're saying, I do think Zuck and Mosseri and Meta are a little concerned about Blue Sky, because they are like, Threads is trying to basically match Blue Sky shot for shot as Blue Sky launches features. And so, like, if you follow Mosseri on Threads, who's the Instagram CEO, but I guess means he's also over Threads, a weird conflation of like what is what.
And technically, he's not the CEO. He's just the head, because they only give the CEO title to people who actually founded the businesses that they buy.
That's right. That's right.
It's true. Like, that's for real. Yeah. Unlike Microsoft that has 72 CEOs.
Right. And like, there was basically a lull in like Threads feature launches, I would say, until Blue Sky really started ramping up after the election.
Yep.
And now MoSeri's like, you could soon be able to use an image from another post without even quoting it or reposting it. Like, well, that's weird. You'll be able to schedule Threads posts. So that was the day before. He's bragging about the active users. And guess what? We're going to find a way where you can do a collection of profiles and then follow everyone in that collection, which is exactly
Starter
how Blue
packs.
Sky.
Yeah.
Starter packs from Blue Sky. Which
Also,
is
you can set your default feed that you see when you log in if
right,
you're
yeah,
part
exactly.
of the test. Yeah, eventually.
Yeah. So you could just tell that like they want to make sure you don't have a feature reason to go to Blue Sky. Like if there's a feature you like on Blue Sky, whether it's starter packs or scheduling posts or whatever, that Threads will have it. But we'll have to see, because it is annoying still to me, like as a creator, if I want to post a link to my YouTube video, Blue Sky, I can post the link in the regular, like just in the post, and it's not going to be shown to less people or less followers because I put a link. But on Threads, if I put a link in a post, it's going to be seen by less people. And so I started doing a little experiment recently where I do the thing. I didn't want to do this, but where I just post with my thumbnail, no link, and then I put the link in the reply. And sure enough, yes, it gets way more engagement. It gets way more views. And it's annoying that like you have to game the system because Threads doesn't want you to leave the platform. And so for that, I like Blue Sky, but also there's just not the user base just yet.
Also, the question is, how much engagement did the actual link post get? Probably almost zero.
There was one video recently where it was actually like Threads actually showed up in the YouTube analytics as a source, nowhere near a main source. It was like single-digit percentage source. It was the shortcuts video I posted recently, 4 days ago, where it actually has like 147 likes for the Threads post, and that link actually got a little more traction, which never before had a link got traction if I put it in the actual first Threads post when I mentioned the video. So negligible, yes, but it is a noticeable difference, which is just annoying because the algorithm just deprioritizes that. So anyway, it's social apocalypse.
It is. It's terrible.
The doomsday clock.
Threads
I want
is terrible.
I want you to tell me where I'm wrong, Jason.
Okay.
I did a
this is
video.
your tier list. Hold on. I have to open a link to a YouTube video, so give me 1 second.
I'm showing you the tier list
because
right
it's going to
here.
probably like blast my ears. Okay.
No. Look, I got the tier list right here. I'll put a link to this video in the show notes. This was my tier list, which Basic Apple Guy actually designed this, and then he made it downloadable, so anybody can go to basicappleguy.com and just do your own tier list. So I did the tier list. I ranked all the things, the operating system updates, the hardware releases, and there's a lot of devices we could talk about. But I want to see if you would have rated anything differently, especially the one device I gave an F, which was the AirPods Max update.
I don't think that actually qualifies as even being on here. But if you're going to put it on here, it should get an F. That's true.
That's what I said. I was like, I don't even know this is a new product, but it gets an F either way. Like, yeah.
I think you rated Apple Intelligence too high. I think Apple Intelligence is...
I gave it a C for the record.
It's too high. That's too high.
That's too high?
I don't know if it'd be an F, but maybe a D. But I feel like if iPad OS 18 is a D, see, I would put that as like a C because it's like, whatever, it's there. It didn't get worse.
It's the calculator.
But it didn't get worse. It didn't get worse. What would you have rated iPad OS 17? Like, it's not worse than that. It didn't, like, they didn't break a bunch of stuff. They just forgot about it and it just released. Like, it's just there. Like, so I don't think that's a problem. But I feel like, yeah, the AirPods Max, what are they even doing? But I think Apple Intelligence is at best a D because the only good thing about it is the ChatGPT integration. It's like your best feature is someone else's feature.
Someone else's feature.
And I can do it easier if I just open their app. So that to me, and I think the Genmoji are fine-ish.
Yeah.
Image Playgrounds is just a horror show.
Bizarre, yes.
It's just weird. The writing tools, I think the writing tools could be interesting for people. First of all, the suggested responses in like text messages, ridiculous. Like, I would never respond that way. It's like my son will send me a message saying I just got home, and the suggested response is like, "Great!" ! Glad to hear it. I'm like, in my life, I've never sent that. Like, why do you not read my text messages and just know that my response is going to be like, okay, or thumbs up or whatever? Like, I don't even understand that. So, and also, Steven, I don't know if you saw this, but I've been on this thing about the notification summaries because I feel like they're just terrible. And recently, the worst possible notification summary that you could send a parent showed up on my phone. It said, I don't know if you can even read that. Someone
Luke
injured himself.
knee.
Yep.
Substitute needed for second game. Invasion at school.
Now, I'm sorry. There should be like a hard filter that says you don't send a parent a message that says invasion at school. And then there was the follow-up. So I did notice that as new messages come in, it'll update the summary and it'll even update parts that were previously like summarized. It takes it into some context. So this is the one I got like the next day.
Invasion left. Container and treats were left behind.
So I'm like, I posted about this. I'm like, so it's like the Purge, except for instead of killing your family, they bring you baked goods. Like, what are these? Now, just so you know, what it was summarizing was someone left an Invisalign at an event.
Oh my goodness.
And it summarized that, and it didn't just summarize the message. It actually summarized the word Invisalign into invasion. It's like you can't do that. You should not be changing.
These are very different things.
Yes, and so I'm like,
wow.
This is not good. Now,
Not good.
whatever. Maybe for text threads, it should not be on. For the news stuff, it's fine because if you got 5 news articles and it's like, South Korean president has been impeached and this has happened and this has happened. But so I think Apple Intelligence should be a D at best. The rest of them are fine. I do agree. The M4 iPad Pro is definitely S tier. I can't think of anything else that would be S tier. I think go ahead.
Well, let me ask you this. So I think you're right. I did have a couple comments on that video. Apple Intelligence probably should be a D. Apple Vision Pro, I put in as a C tier. Do you agree or disagree?
If we had been doing this together, which would have been fun, but we didn't do it together.
Oh, sorry, we should have done it together. But that would have been a good idea.
I would have probably taken it at either B or C.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I don't struggle with the fact that there's not as much content because that's not really how I use it, right? But and this is the guy who uses it almost every day.
Yes,
except for when I'm on a plane. So I think I'm still more bullish on it than the typical person. But I should say this. Anyone who paid for the Vision Pro probably ranks it a C. I am still using a review unit.
You need to pay for it.
So my perspective is clouded a little bit. I get way more utility value out of it than what I paid for it because I paid $0.
Right. Okay. Well, anything else that you
I was trying to think if anything else should have been an S tier. I do think maybe the M4 MacBook Pro, the base model, is deserved. It is probably the best base model MacBook Pro that they've ever released. It's got the 16 gigs of memory, and that M4 is ridiculous. Sure. I don't know. M4 iMac, is it an A tier? I don't know. It's the same. I don't know. Maybe, but
it's great. Well, it's one of the first newer iMacs that I have. I have a review unit of that. And it's actually been great. It's like a family computer. My kids have been on it. My son started doing Logic Pro on it. It's a great family computer.
If they had made it so that you don't have the Mac Mini on here.
Yeah, it's in the S tier.
No, it's not. Wait,
am
I looking at the wrong? Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at.
You got to scrub forward.
I was looking at a version of it that apparently didn't. Okay, yeah, I would definitely put the Mac Mini at S tier.
Yeah,
but I was going to say, I think the M4 iMac is probably a B. Had they made an M4 Pro version of it, then I probably would have put it in A.
That would have been nice. Yeah, that would be nice. But
so there you go.
Okay,
yeah, I agree with your S tier for sure. So
okay, very good. And yeah, the AirPods Max. What are you doing? Anyway, last thing I want to say, Jason. I don't know if you saw my my recent Threads post. Speaking of Apocalypse, although I put it on all the social media networks because I did.
Your posts are everywhere. I did. It's ridiculous.
My latest speed test. I upgraded my internet yet again. And now I'm getting over 3 gigs on Ethernet, down and up on my Mac Studio. That's right. Look at that. And I'm gonna do a video on this, I think, because the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro have Wi-Fi 7. I don't know if you know that.
I heard someone tell me. I guess the guy on a podcast told me that.
That's right. I have a Wi-Fi 7 router. I swapped out one of my Unify access points. I'm getting over a gig over Wi-Fi. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I got it.
Literally nothing.
I'm going to get
very fast. You're going to do nothing fast. I want to tell our listeners, though, this is a pro tip for you. Steven's running this speed test in this video. If you are on a device and you have metered data in any way, never, ever run a speed test because that thing uses up a lot of your data. I did it on a review unit one time, and I just popped in a prepaid like T-Mobile thing or whatever. They had 30 gigs for 30 days. And it's like 1.7 gigs used just for speed tests. I'm like, I ran one test for like 13 seconds and it used up 1.7. I'm like, where's all that data go? Is it on the phones? Like, what is it sending me?
Yeah.
Anyway, don't do that if you have metered data because it uses a whole lot. So anyway.
Hopefully I don't. I don't know if Frontier is going to eventually.
No. I mean, if you're on your home Wi-Fi, you're fine. I'm talking about like if you're on a cellular plan somewhere where you only get a certain amount of like data each month. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know why you are so fascinated with.
Listen, I will say, because a lot of people are like, well, you're still, dependent on what the CDN speed is for the website you're trying to access or use. All I know is I upload YouTube videos almost every day, and those things upload fast.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm not home and I have to upload a 4K YouTube video that's 10 gigs, it is a problem.
But I mean, counterpoint, I'm out here in my office, which we all know is like 30 yards from the house.
That's right.
And when we get done recording, what'd you say?
Uphill both ways.
When we get done recording, I move my audio hijack file. Former sponsor of the show.
Yes.
They didn't sponsor it today. No,
Not
former sponsor of the show.
Last week was last week.
But I really do use them. And I move it into Dropbox. And by the time I get to the back door, it's already uploaded, that file. And it's like a 1.5 gig file.
Audio is fine. I'm just saying video.
I'm saying the size of the file. It's a 1.5 gig file.
Yeah, sure.
And it takes me like a 30-yard walk to upload so that you can get it. So I'm just saying, like, I only have a measly 1 gig, both ways. So.
Anyway, I enjoy my fast speed, even if just to run a speed test and just admire it.
I'm only using, and that's your wired speed, isn't it? I'm running. Stephen doesn't want to know this, but I'm actually running a speed test right now while we're recording.
Oh, great!
And I have 780 up and down on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's great. That's the Google. That's the Google.
And I'm 30 yards from the house.
Although the Wi-Fi, you have a Wi-Fi router in the shed. Yeah, I was going to say it's not going through walls.
Remember, I buried an Ethernet cable in my backyard.
Yeah, that's right. I need to do that actually. I know there's a lot of smart people that listen to our show, and I'm trying to get internet to a barn that we have out in the backyard, and I'm trying to figure out the most economical but also reliable way to do that. Yes, I could run an Ethernet cable and bury it, but it would be very, very long, and it'd be very laborious.
It's not hard though.
I understand that, but I also would need to find out where you have to go in the attic. Someone has to go up there, punch it through, or I also know someone's gonna have to go in the attic either way. But Ubiquiti makes the point-to-point microwave things. Yeah. Where you can put it on the one side and then
You're not going to do that, Stephen. You want to know why? Because they're limited to 100 megabytes. There's no way you're going to do that.
They got them now where they're doing 60 hertz out there, 60 gig.
Yeah, you're not gonna do that. You'd spend $700 on that. Plus, you have to have a Ubiquiti server point or something inside to connect it to. You're gonna spend $1,400 on all of this stuff. You're gonna put it up. You're gonna run one speed test in the barn and be like, no, this cannot stand. And then you're gonna end up burying an Ethernet cable anyway, which is actually the easiest possible thing to bury because you only have to bury it 4 inches deep. They probably tell you should bury it deeper, but it doesn't interfere with anything. And as long as you're not going to mow, bury it deep enough to not mow over, you know what I mean? It'll be fine.
All right. Well, if this is really the best way to do it, the listeners, you can let me know. If anybody does microwave point to point on the building.
How far are the two buildings apart?
It's 120 feet.
Yeah, you don't want to do the mic. I mean, I almost did that because I'm not as upset. I think it's a good solution. I just think that you're going to end up ripping it out because you're like, no.
Well, it's not for me to use. It's for my kids and whoever else is in the barn to be able to get text messages because the barn is metal. And so the cell service doesn't even get through. So there's no internet.
Sure.
So anyway. All right. Well, let me know, listeners. Also, I forgot what was the thing that I said at the beginning to let us know what. I forgot what it was. Anyway, leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You all remember because you've already heard it. So.
You've heard it. So leave us a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts. And also, if you want to support the show, $5 a month. All we need is 1,000 of you for the entire next year. We can get two immersive cameras.
Yeah.
And you can watch us in Apple Vision Pro. No, we're not going to do that. But we would appreciate your support of the show, either by the rating or you can listen to all of our bonus episodes and get an ad-free version if you support us in Apple Podcasts. Or if you want all the chapters and the good stuff, the best way to support us is to go to primarytech.fm and click bonus episodes, and you can support us there. Now, we're going to record a bonus episode that we have not talked about yet. I actually have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we're going to get it. You're going to know what it is because it's already in the feed. We're going to go record that bonus episode, And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Oh, and also, just so you know, next week, normal episode. It's going to be our big year in review. Jason and I, we used to do that annually, so we're going to do it again. That's going to be next week. It'll come out on Thursday. And the week after, January 2nd, we're going to have a normal episode too. We're going for it. We're here for you during the holidays. That's our tagline.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.